Our political situation must change in order for contact to be accessible. You said that it had to relate to leaders who seek absolute power. I believe some people in your community that I see online are misinterpreting that, so I would love if you can share more clarity. Another thing you mentioned is that it is important to mail our votes in, except that was encouraged due to coronavirus, and now we're seeing that the postal service is being defunded, and some of the systems that would sort mail are also being removed. I'm wondering if you can speak to what is the best way for us to make sure our vote is recorded and heard in our shifting circumstances. Any clarity is so super greatly appreciated. Thank you. I love you. Goodbye, Bashar.
Again, whatever way is the path of least resistance for you. If it has to be the idea of mail, and it seems like that's the obvious choice for you in your situation, then by all means understand that that is the path of least resistance for you. If it's actually showing up physically to cast your vote, then that's the path of least resistance for you if synchronicity makes that obvious to you. But the whole point of encouraging people on your planet and in your country to vote is simply, more importantly, not the political idea so much as it is the idea of taking a physical action that represents your preference of the reality that you prefer to experience. So when we talk about encouraging you to vote, it has less to do with politics and more to do with the actions that would be representative that you would automatically be taking if you already existed on the version of Earth you say you prefer to exist on. Because remember, physical action is the language of physical reality, not words or anything of the like. It's simply taking the action. So even if you take the action and in one reality your so-called vote doesn't appear to be counted, that's not necessarily the consequence that matters. The consequence is having taken the action to the best of your ability. What happens after that will simply be representative of the reality you prefer in your reality and the reality others prefer in their reality, but their reality won't affect the effect you have created by taking the action from your reality. Because just because you can see things going on in someone else's reality that you don't prefer doesn't mean you're actually in that reality. So we're simply encouraging you to take the actions that would be more representative of the reality that you choose to be in, no matter what you see them choosing to do.
Hello, Bashar.
And to you, good day.
I have been studying the tarot system for about 28 years. And
oh, how exciting.
Oh, it is. It's my passion.
All right.
A while ago, I discovered a deck that allowed me to easily communicate with the deceased.
Yes.
That sparked a passion and an idea. Would it be possible for me to design a set of cards to communicate with extraterrestrials using symbols, numbers, and different images?
Yes, and in fact, such a deck already exists because the channel co-created such a deck a long time ago with another individual. It may or may not be still available to you on your planet. As you say, it might be quote-unquote out of stock or out of print. But that deck that was designed as an extraterrestrial tarot deck is called Contact Cards.
Okay, I'm going to look for that.
All right. Now, if that doesn't fully work or you have no ability to access it, yes, of course, it's possible for you to design your own. Of course it is.
Okay, thank you for that. Will crystal skulls be important tools after passing through the eye of the needle?
Yes.
Okay.
They will be important permission slips as they always have been, but because people on your planet are having more of a growing awareness of them, they can become more predominant in your society as permission slips that can aid and assist you in connecting to different things, not only about your own history, but also about what you typically call your future.
Okay. And can I utilize crystal skulls at this time, at this present time, to communicate or work with races, extraterrestrial races who also utilize crystal skulls?
Yes, although not necessarily many of them will utilize crystal skulls as such, though they may have other versions of those permission slips that aren't necessarily fashioned after skulls.
Okay.
So, yes, you can make similar connections, but again, it's up to you to follow your excitement, because if it excites you, then there's a reason that it does.
Okay. And the quartz skulls, because they have that recording ability, are there also other skulls that can be of value, like charoite or some of the other minerals?
Again, whatever you're attracted to is what will work for you for a variety of reasons, but you have to determine for yourself what you are attracted to. If you're attracted, the attraction itself tells you that at least at this moment you're attracted to it. It is something that can work in alignment with your belief system. Otherwise, you wouldn't be attracted to it.
Okay. I have an unusual question. Were our thoughts that we think generated outside of this reality, and are we limited to these thoughts that we have access to?
The thoughts that you think are generated from within your physical mind, because thoughts are a secondary level expression of the consciousness as it filters itself through the belief systems that make up your physical mind. So the idea is that there is first belief system, then the beliefs reinforce themselves with emotions, thoughts, behaviors, and then reflections of your experience in the idea of physical reality. So thoughts are generated from within physical reality to reinforce beliefs to allow you to continue to experience the idea of physical reality, because physical reality isn't real until you believe that it is.
Okay, so when we're outside of physical reality, are thoughts still there then? Are thoughts
not in the same way, no. It's more about recognition and knowingness rather than the idea of thoughts as you experience them in physical reality. You might, in a non-physical state, now this is going to sound a little paradoxical, you might in a non-physical state still think that you're thinking, but you're not really thinking in the same way you do as a physical being. It just might be that you're so used to it that you still think you're thinking, but in fact what you're actually doing is simply more directly perceiving or knowing. Now, you can observe what you perceive or know, and that might feel like thinking, but it's not exactly the same process.
Okay. Does the concept of mathematics and numerology exist outside of time-space?
Yes, to some degree, although generally speaking, it is a underlying template representation of what you consider to be different levels of reality. So it will be interpreted or experienced very differently on the different levels of reality. For example, we don't experience math in the same way that you do. We experience reality more geometrically than mathematically, even though there are what most people would consider to be mathematics involved in geometry. We experience it in a more holistic way, a more representational, symbolic way than the idea of the mathematical formulas expressed by your mathematicians and scientists.
Oh, thank you for that understanding. I had at one time a labyrinth on my property, which I think is a geometric shape. And
Yes.
I was listening to your spiral lecture on the Shadok, and I was wondering
Shadok.
Shadok, thank you for correcting me. And I was wondering if I could build some geometric structure on my own property that would be useful for what, is there is the triangle?
How about this suggestion?
Okay.
When you get excited about something, stop wondering whether or not it's something that might assist you and just take it as far as you can and see what happens.
Okay.
Because every question you have asked just about is, I wonder if, I wonder if. How about just answering it with, why not?
Okay, excellent. Thank you so much, Bashar.
We thank you. Good day.
Good day.
Hello, Bashar. Hello, viewers. My name is Ian, currently coming to you from my hometown of Port Macquarie, New South Wales, Australia. A few months ago, I lived in the northeast of China, in a city called Changchun in the province of Jilin. And one evening, out for my daily walk, between the hours of 6 and 8 p.m., I was walking by the river, minding my own business, watching people do Tai Chi and dancing. And behind me, I heard one of the crowds give out a collective "Four." I spun around and saw what at the time I thought was a very impressive drone. On reflection, I realized it could have only possibly been one of your people's spacecraft. It looked exactly as depicted in the documentary First Contact and acted exactly as depicted in the documentary First Contact. Triangle-shaped lights on each corner, red lights in this case. It rotated and then suddenly it flew away as fast can be. And what gave it away is that it made no sound whatsoever. You could say it was so quiet you could hear the silence. My question is, what did you pick up in terms of energy from the crowd? More positive or more negative? What I sensed from the crowd was one of curious awe. So that is my question. Thank you very much. That is all. Good day.
Well, first you have to understand that wasn't my ship personally. It can be a ship from my civilization or from the Yael civilization, which uses triangular craft. They were observing the energy of the Tai Chi formation to gauge and observe the idea of how it raised the frequencies and vibrations of everyone in the group.
First of all, we're immensely grateful for you being here, and you have no idea how much grateful we are. But
yes, I do.
You are, okay. Especially this unusual time that we are in.
Yes, especially now.
Okay, I just have a few quick questions, and I won't take much time.
That's all right.
Regarding our ET neighbors, I know that we have to be at a vibrational state that we will be able to contact, or they will be able to contact us.
Yes, although that's not as necessary for some of them as it is for others.
Thank God. All right. So I was asking that it is true, it's our free will, but can we choose them to please contact us, or kind of forcing on us, or somehow kick?
It's not about forcing, it's about following the formula, raising your vibration to the appropriate level, and being the kind of person that they would then be natural in contacting. But again, you have to trust the timing.
Okay, but I don't believe that humanity is where they will be able to contact. I'm just saying that sometimes a karmic...
Here is something perhaps that is important for you to understand. We talk about the idea of disclosure, we talk about the idea of open contact, but remember, depending on the culture that someone belongs to, there are already ongoing contacts happening on a regular basis, and some of these contacts have been going on for generations. It's just that most of you don't know about them because they're usually taking place with people that are more connected to some of the ancient ways, connected to nature, so on and so forth, things that are more representative of the kinds of people and the kinds of relationships that some of the ETs find more compatible. So when we talk about the idea that open contact is about to happen in the future, we're actually only referring to certain cultures on your planet that haven't yet allowed themselves to open up enough or connect to nature enough or be themselves enough for that contact to occur in their culture. But there are cultures on your planet that have been having contact for thousands of years.
So these prophets or seers, and let's say, for example, Jesus.
Yes.
Were they a human, or were they also connected to?
Well, they were human, but they were hybridized like all of you, but they understood how to be fully more what they really were in terms of expressing all the abilities that each of you have, but are lying dormant within you because you're not allowing yourself to realize your full potential.
Okay. Will you please help me with this idea that there is no outside reality, and the outside reality is a reflection of my own belief. Yet I see my hand, and I see Bashar, and I see a lot of people are listening. Yeah. How do I add up that there is no outside reality?
You are misinterpreting the idea when we say there is no outside. We mean there's no outside to existence. But you can create a reflection within existence of something that appears to be outside of yourself. In the same way that when you look in a mirror, your reflection appears to be over there. But it's not really. It's all the light coming back to your eyes. There's really nothing over there. So the idea is that the outside is simply an illusion that you create for your own purposes, for your own convenience to experience certain things. So don't misunderstand what we mean when we say there's no outside. There is outside as an experience. There's just no outside to existence.
So I'm talking to Bashar, that does exist.
But you're talking to your version of me. You're creating your version of me in your consciousness, knowing that I exist on a fundamental level. You are willing to match my vibration enough to create your version in order to communicate with me. Just as I am creating my version of you to communicate with you. Your version of me may not exactly be my version of me, and your version of you may not exactly be my version of you, but it's close enough vibrationally that we can actually exchange the idea of information.
All right, right, okay. And on that issue, when do we say this is a belief and when it is actually a fact?
There are only 5 facts. Now, we understand you can say it's a fact that I'm experiencing this, but that doesn't mean the experience isn't created from a belief. Do you understand?
Let me give an example.
Sure.
Okay, there are 40 million people live in California,
Yes.
30 million cars, and
Yes.
they burn like 20 million gallons of gas every day.
Yes.
So I say it's factually, I, as a person in California responsible for global warming
Yes.
and all these fires that we have. So
It is a fact.
or this is a belief.
It is a fact that you have created that experience with your beliefs. That's the way you use the term fact. In other words, these things can change. And if they can change, they're not fundamental facts. They're temporary facts that you've created with your belief systems. So when we say fact, we mean things that cannot change, ever, for any reason whatsoever. We're talking about the fundamental structure of existence itself. But the facts that you're experiencing in your reality are simply the product of your belief systems, and they can be changed. Therefore, at most, we would call them temporary facts, rather than something so factual it can never be changed.
Okay, in this version of reality I'm in, would the global warming get rid of the humanity?
If it continues in that way, yes, it can be the destruction of the environment on your planet, as has happened on other planets. So the idea is to shift yourself by following your passion in the formula that we give you. Shift yourself to different versions of Earth that are already more reflective of something other than those experiences that you don't prefer. At the same time, the way you do that is by acting physically in the best interests of demonstrating to people how to do things, how to act, how to make choices that are more representative of a different kind of world. So that's what makes it easier for you to shift there, and also give others an opportunity to do so as well, should they choose to do so, by seeing an example in you of the kind of behaviors that would be more representative of the kind of world you prefer.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Does that help?
Definitely. Can I ask 1 or 2 more questions? Do I have
Well,
to?
again, that was a question.
Yes. What do we take from this life to afterlife?
You take your experience. You take what it is you wish to apply to your own path, your own growth, and go on to the next adventure, whatever that you choose that to be.
And when we say thank Bashar or thank God, who we are thanking?
Yourselves
thank
in a
God.
different reflection.
So if I say thank God, that means I'm thanking myself?
Well, you're thanking the idea of the whole concept of existence itself. You are expressing gratitude at being a part of it. So I'm not saying it's completely just yourself as an individual, but you are a part and an expression of all that is. So in a sense, you are being grateful and in appreciation of yourself, but simultaneously also as the whole of everything that is beyond you as an individual.
Okay. Thank you. I appreciate it.